A lot of people are looking to escape, they're not looking to face. So, like, we can choose. You can either face your problems or you could try to escape your problems. And what's funny about it is you can use the same thing to either do both. Like, some people use psychedelics to face their problems, other people use psychedelics to escape their problems. Some people use, friends or all this other stuff in the world as an escape. I heard this thing that said, something about like the key to happiness and all this other stuff. They said something about, friends, spend more time with friends. It's very important to be around the right people and all this. But to me, it just sounds like an excuse because I live alone and I spend most of my time alone. But I'm happy because I fixed my own mind. The real key to everything is fixing your mind. Like, I mean, like everything. Like, you fix your mind. Like, you can heal your mental health issues. You can free yourself of depression, anxiety. You could free yourself of negative thinking. You could free yourself, but you have to free yourself. Everyone can just give you advice. We give you knowledge. We tell you what worked for us. But that doesn't mean it will work for you. On top of, you'll never know if it's going to work for you if you do not try it. So, like, people will hear ideas and they'll be like, oh, that's a good idea. Well, it'd be a better idea if you actually tried the idea. Like, for the past year, I've spent this year, well, literally almost a year and a half now, I've spent this time getting to know myself again, rebuilding myself, fixing my mindset, fixing my work ethic, fixing my self-discipline, fixing, like, all these things that I worked on. It wasn't easy, but I knew that it would point me in the right direction. Like, all these things, they're not guaranteed. Happiness is not guaranteed. Success is not guaranteed. Even if you did every correct step to get success, you still have the possibility of failing. That's just life. But you can at least fix your mind. No matter what your life situation is, no matter what the fuck, if your mind is good, you're good. But most people's mind is not good. That's why they're not good. That's why they're looking for exterior things to help their mind. And listen, I'm all for using tools. I'm a huge advocate for psychedelics. But, like, there's this idea in the psychedelic community where it's like, I feel like this idea prevents people from actually healing and growing. The idea is that people say you can abuse psychedelics. And let me say, you can abuse psychedelics if you're taking small doses. Taking small doses, hanging out with some friends, tripping balls, yeah. Maybe you abuse it too much if you're going to parties and, like, tripping and then taking MDMA. Like, that's abuse, yes. But if you're doing heavy use does not mean abuse. So, like, someone like me, I trip often. But I trip often because I like to face myself often. I like to work on myself often. I like to, I don't know, and also with psychedelics, I love to travel. So, like, I like to take high doses, put a blindfold on, travel, like, all the other shit. But in order for me to even get to that point with psychedelics, I had to work on myself. The psychedelics won't allow you to travel. Like, people talk about all this other, like, a lot of times you don't travel unless you deal with your shit. And you don't deal with your shit until you stop believing in the bad trip. I stopped believing in the bad trip because I realized it was only bad because I didn't like what it was trying to show me. I didn't like where it was going. And it doesn't matter what the fuck I like. Because the truth is, it had nothing to do with the trip. It's not that I didn't like where the trip was going. I didn't like that it was showing me parts of myself that I didn't like. I didn't like that it was showing me parts of myself that I was not okay with. Parts of myself that I would lie to myself about, saying, oh no, like, but then the psychedelics are like, no, motherfucker, this is you. Look at yourself. Look at how you think. Look at the thoughts in your mind. Look at what brought you to this point. Like, the whole other perspective. On top of, the psychedelics can get even deeper and be like, okay, look, you can experience life without a body. Look, you can, like, those ideas kind of shock people. because they lie to themselves. So many people lie to themselves, which is why they're not healed. Because the work part is doing the work and then not lying to yourself. It's very simple. Like, simple but hard. Like, it gets to the question of why do people lie to themselves? And it's all because they just want to feel good. But they'd feel better if they told themselves the harsh truth, fixed that harsh truth, and then looked back and seen the progress that they've made in their own life, in their own mind, and they'd feel better. I strongly agree with that Tony Robbins saying about how the key to happiness is progress. Because I look back on my life and I see progress, and that makes me happy. If I looked back in my life and I seen that I was degressing, that I was, things were starting to fuck up even more, I don't think I'd be too happy about that. So, like, it's that thing. That, we just got to put the work in on ourselves. And no one's going to do it for us. And it's just, I feel like so many excuses exist to prevent us from actually healing. Like, I get it. People's intentions might be pure. Like, therapists want to heal people. But the way the system is set up for failure. Because if therapists really wanted to heal people, they'd be out of a job if they actually did their job, like, harder. If they put more work into it. But they have to follow this thing. The same thing with the psychedelic people. Like, people would be healed with psychedelics, but they try to follow this thing saying, well, I can't trip that often because it's disrespectful, so I can... And it's like some excuses, when the truth is, people are just scared of themselves. Because they have no problem doing drugs often that have nothing to do with facing themselves. Like, people will sit there and, like, I smoke weed all the time, right? I dab, and I take wax and THC, all that, right? Every day. But, like, people have no problem if you smoke weed every day. People have no problem if you drink alcohol often. People have no problem if you do all this. But if you say you trip often, people be like, oh, don't abuse the psychedelics. And it's like, bro, don't abuse all the other molecules you're using. Like, what are you talking about? Abuse. I use these tools to heal myself. I used these tools to help myself. I use these tools to help build myself into the man that I am today. Like, that's like people who say, you shouldn't work out often. Well, coming from the people that don't work out at all. You shouldn't jog that much, coming from the people who don't jog at all. Like, I don't know. Then people be like, with me, they tell me I need to slow down. I need to relax more, coming from the people who never do anything. Like, we gotta pay attention to ourselves, figure out who we are, and just do what we do. Right? Like, I do a lot because it feels better doing a lot than doing nothing. I do what I trip because I feel better when I trip often. When I don't trip often, my ego tends to grow a little bit, and it's just I don't feel right. My mind tends to get out of control because I'm not meditating, I'm not facing myself, I'm not eating right, I'm not living right, I'm not working out right. Like, so I had to fix all this within myself. Because it's not like you take the psychedelics and they heal you. No, you take the psychedelics, you figure out your fucking problems, and then you heal yourself. You do the work. Like, that's what I did for this past year, is I did the work. But really, I've been doing the work for like the past 8-9 years. But this last year and a half by myself, I've been able to do work, like, just hard work on myself. And I'm grateful that I did. So what I'm saying is, do that hard work. Trip with the intentions to face yourself. Stop believing in the bad trip. There's no such thing. There is only you. And if you don't like you, you can change you. If you don't love you, you can love yourself. Like, that's the main key. I think the key is learning how to love yourself. Because I love myself. I know it sounds corny, it sounds funny, but I fucking love myself. I'm in my apartment by myself, I go on hikes by myself, I make these videos by myself, I make this music like, it's all by myself. But I'm having the time of my life. I'm never bored, because I always got shit to do. I set my mind up that way. I set my life up that way. We forget that we're the ones that can set our life up the way that we want it to be. If you're not living the way you want, then start living the way you want. Stop living the way you are and start doing things that you actually want to do. Start making the hard decisions. Start putting that work in on yourself, so then you can heal yourself. A healed mind is a happy mind.